you are going to fail today. At some point between now and midnight, your brain is going to present you with a choice between what you want to do and what you should do, and you are going to pick the wrong one. You know this because you've done it every day for as long as you can remember. You've set the alarm, you've written the plan, you've felt the fire, and by Tuesday, the alarm is off, the plan is forgotten, and the fire is a pile of ash you're too tired to sweep up. Every time it happens, you ask yourself the same question: why can't I just be disciplined? Here's the answer. You can't be disciplined because you've been given a completely broken model of what discipline actually is. Every piece of advice you've ever received about consistency, find your why, stay motivated, push through the pain, embrace the grind, is architecturally wrong. A blueprint for a building that collapses every 72 hours, and you've been standing in the rubble blaming yourself instead of blaming the blueprint. That ends right now. Because what I'm about to explain changes how you operate as a human being permanently. And the people who understand this, the ones who show up effortlessly, day after day, year after year, while you're still trying to find motivation on a Monday morning, they know something you don't. Something nobody has ever told you because telling you would make an entire industry worthless overnight. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what they know, and you will never approach a goal, a habit, or a commitment the same way again. Let me show you what that something is by first destroying the thing you think is saving you: motivation. The sacred cow of every self-help book, every morning routine video, every keynote speech with dramatic music and a sunset backdrop. Motivation is the reason you're stuck. And I can prove it with one question. How many times have you watched a video about discipline, felt completely ready to change your life, and done absolutely nothing different the next morning? 10 times? 50? 100? You've lost count. And each time, you blamed yourself. You thought you didn't want it badly enough. The truth is the opposite. You wanted it so badly that the wanting itself became the reward. Here's what's happening inside your skull. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz discovered something in the 1990s that should have demolished the motivation industry the moment it was published. Dopamine, the chemical everyone associates with reward and pleasure, fires when you anticipate achieving something. The spike comes before the action, before the effort, before the result. Your brain generates the chemical reward at the moment of anticipation. So when you watch that video and feel the fire and see the future version of yourself who is lean and productive and unstoppable, that feeling is dopamine. And your brain has just collected the same chemical it would have collected if you'd actually done the work. The reward is already in the bank, the behavior is now redundant. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between visualizing the transformation and living it. The chemical signature is identical. This is why motivation feels so good and produces so little. You are consuming motivational content because it gives you the neurochemical experience of change without requiring any. You are addicted to the feeling of becoming. And that addiction is the single biggest obstacle between you and actually becoming anything. Think about what this means for a second. Every Monday night when you sit down and plan your week and feel that surge of control and possibility, that's dopamine. Every time you buy a new planner, download a new app, set up a new system, that's dopamine. Every time you tell a friend about the changes you're going to make, that's dopamine. Your brain is collecting the reward of transformation at every stage of the planning process. And by the time the actual work arrives, the 6 a.m. alarm, the blank page, the gym on a cold morning, the reward has already been spent. There's nothing left to drive the action. You pre-gamed the celebration and showed up to the party with nothing. This is why New Year's resolutions die by January 19th, the average date, according to research from Strava, when most fitness-related resolutions are abandoned. The resolution itself was a dopamine event. The announcement was a dopamine event. Buying the gym membership was a dopamine event. By the time January 19th arrives, the brain has been running on fumes for 2 weeks, because every available reward was front-loaded into the anticipation phase and nothing was left for the execution phase. You didn't fail because you're lazy. You failed because your brain already threw the party. And it gets worse. Pay attention to this part because this is where the trap seals shut. Schultz's research showed that once your brain learns the pattern, once it figures out that motivational content reliably produces the dopamine spike, the spike starts shifting earlier in the sequence. Eventually, the act of opening YouTube, pulling up the podcast app, sitting down to research morning routines, that alone triggers the reward. Your brain has optimized the loop. It has found the shortest path to the chemical it wants. And that path routes around every behavior that would actually change your life. This is why you can spend 3 hours planning the perfect productivity system and feel more accomplished than someone who just sat down and did the work for 45 minutes. Your brain scored more dopamine in those 3 hours. And dopamine tracks anticipation, not outcomes. So by every metric your nervous system measures, you had the more productive morning. You just didn't build anything, and you won't build anything because the building doesn't feel like anything while it's happening, and your brain has been trained to chase feelings. This is the trap, and most people watching this right now are caught in it without knowing it. But here's where everything turns, because the people who actually are disciplined, the ones you compare yourself to, they escaped this exact trap. And the way they escaped it is so counterintuitive that your brain is going to resist it the moment you hear it. Stay with me, because the next few minutes are going to dismantle everything you thought you knew about willpower. The most disciplined people you know do not have more willpower than you. Read that line again in your head. They do not fight harder. They do not resist more. They do not wake up every morning and win some heroic battle against their desires while you lose yours. In 2012, researchers at the University of Chicago gave over 200 people tracking devices and pinged them 7 times a day for a week, asking whether they were experiencing a desire, whether it conflicted with a goal, and whether they resisted or gave in. Over 10,000 data points on real human self-control in real life. The people who scored highest on self-control reported encountering fewer temptations in the first place. They were better architects. They had built their lives so that the war didn't happen. And that distinction between fighting your environment and designing your environment is the most important distinction in the entire science of human behavior. But nobody talks about it because it doesn't make your chest swell. It doesn't give you goosebumps. It makes you feel like an engineer. And engineers don't sell tickets. But engineers build things that last. And that's what we're doing here. We're building something that lasts. Here's what this looks like in practice. And I want you to picture this because the gap between what you think discipline looks like and what it actually looks like is the gap that's keeping you stuck. Picture 2 people. Both of them want to eat healthier. Person A is motivated. They watch a documentary about nutrition. They feel fired up. They go to the grocery store and buy healthy food. They also buy the chips because they're on sale and they'll just have self-control. They get home, they put the healthy food in the fridge, they put the chips in the cabinet. Day 1 goes well, day 2 goes well, day 3 they come home exhausted. Their brain is depleted from 8 hours of decisions at work. The chips are in the cabinet, the healthy food requires cooking. The chips require opening a bag. Their depleted brain calculates the path of least resistance, and 3 minutes later they're on the couch eating chips and telling themselves they'll start again Monday. Person B did something different. Person B went to the same grocery store, bought the healthy food, did not buy the chips, went home, put the healthy food in the front of the fridge at eye level, spent 30 minutes on Sunday prepping meals for the week in containers. When they come home exhausted on day 3, their depleted brain calculates the path of least resistance. The pre-made meal is right there. Opening the container is just as easy as opening a bag of chips, except there are no chips. The decision has been removed. The environment has been engineered. Person B didn't have more willpower than person A. Person B made willpower irrelevant. And that is the difference between someone who is disciplined for 3 days and someone who is disciplined for 3 years. Behavioral scientist Wendy Wood spent decades studying this at the University of Southern California and published her findings in 2019. What she found should restructure how you think about everything you do in a day. Approximately 43% of your daily behavior is habitual. Almost half of everything you do is triggered automatically by cues in your environment and executed without conscious deliberation. You are a person who makes a few hundred real decisions a day and runs on autopilot for the rest. And the autopilot is governed by one thing: whatever your environment makes easiest. Wood found that when people change environments, new city, new job, new living situation, their habits broke apart and reformed around the new cues. The people who built lasting habits were the ones whose environments made the desired behavior the default. And here's the finding from her research that should hit you like a truck. She found that people who scored high on self-control questionnaires actually reported less use of effortful self-control in their daily lives. Less. The people we call disciplined experience less internal struggle than the people we call undisciplined, because the struggle is a symptom of a bad system. When the system works, the struggle disappears. You have been told your entire life that discipline feels like fighting. Discipline feels like nothing. That's how you know it's working. Right now, your environment is making the wrong behaviors your default. Map it. Your phone is on your desk, face up, notifications on. The streaming apps auto login the second you open the browser. The gym is a 20-minute drive that requires packing a bag and making a decision. The junk food is at eye level in the kitchen. The book you want to read is on a shelf in another room. Every single behavior you want to eliminate has been made frictionless by your current setup. Every single behavior you want to build requires multiple decisions and physical effort to initiate. You are losing an engineering battle, and you've been blaming your character for an engineering failure. But here's the shift that changes everything. Once you see your environment as a machine that produces your behavior, you realize you can rebuild the machine. And rebuilding the machine is 1,000 times easier than trying to override it with willpower every day for the rest of your life. Let me give you the most practical thing you will hear in this entire video. Remember this section. Come back to it. This is the part that actually changes your life if you let it. The person who goes to the gym every morning built that habit by putting the gym bag by the front door the night before. They chose a gym between their home and their work, so going requires zero detour and skipping requires a deliberate reroute out of their way. They laid out their clothes beside the bed, so getting dressed is the first physical action of the day and requires zero decisions, no opening drawers, no choosing what to wear, no searching for the right socks. The number of choices between their bed and the treadmill is zero, and when the number of choices is zero, willpower is irrelevant. You cannot fail a test that has no questions. The person who eats clean stopped buying junk food. They meal prep on Sunday. The containers are in the fridge at eye level. When they're hungry, the path of least resistance is the healthy meal. The battle is over before they enter the kitchen because the kitchen contains only options that serve them. You cannot lose a fight with an opponent who never shows up. The person who doesn't waste hours on their phone put it in a drawer in a different room during work hours. They turned off every notification except phone calls. They deleted social media from the home screen, so accessing it requires opening settings, navigating to the app library, finding the app, and waiting for it to load 17 seconds of deliberate effort instead of one reflexive thumb tap. And 17 seconds is enough to break the autopilot. The impulse fires, the hand reaches, the phone isn't there, and the loop dies. 17 seconds between you and a behavior you've been trying to break for years. That's all it took. Not a speech, not a breakthrough, 17 seconds of friction. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking this sounds too simple. You're thinking there has to be more. And that thought, that exact thought, is the trap. Because your brain has been conditioned by the motivation industry to believe that transformation requires a dramatic internal experience, a breakthrough, an epiphany. A moment when everything clicks and you feel different. That belief keeps you searching. It keeps you consuming. It keeps the dopamine loop spinning. The truth that the industry will never tell you is that the moment of transformation doesn't feel like anything. It feels like putting your gym bag by the door. It feels like throwing out the chips. It feels like putting your phone in a drawer. It feels ordinary. It feels boring. And boring is the thing your dopamine addicted brain will fight hardest to avoid. The resistance you feel towards simple solutions is itself a symptom of the addiction. Your brain wants the complex system. It wants the elaborate morning routine. It wants the 4-7 step productivity framework. Because complexity is stimulating. Complexity generates dopamine. Complexity feels like progress. Simplicity just works. And working doesn't feel like anything at all. Now, here's where most people stop. They hear environment design and think that's the whole answer. It's half the answer. And the second half is more powerful, more permanent, and more difficult to implement because it requires changing something you've carried with you since childhood. Your identity, the voice in your head, the one that says this is pointless, the one that says you'll quit in a week like you always do, the one that says people like you don't do things like this. That voice is more powerful than any environmental cue because it runs constantly. It is the operating system beneath the habits, beneath the routines, beneath the systems. And this is where the real transformation happens. So lean into this section because this is the part that separates people who are consistent for weeks from people who are consistent for decades. James Clear wrote about this as the 3 layers of behavior change. The outermost layer is outcomes, what you want to achieve. Lose weight, make money, write a book. The middle layer is processes the habits you use. Gym 3 times a week, meal prep Sundays, write every morning. The innermost layer is identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are. And here's the part that will change how you approach every goal for the rest of your life. Most people work from the outside in. They pick an outcome, they install a process, and they hope their identity catches up. It doesn't. Because the first time the process gets hard, and it will get hard, usually around week 3, quitting feels natural. Quitting feels like returning to who they really are. Continuing feels like pretending, like wearing a costume, and nobody can wear a costume forever. The alarm goes off, and the voice says, "Who are you kidding? You're not a gym person." And because the identity agrees with the voice wins every time for the rest of your life. Until you change the identity. The people who are still consistent a year from now work from the inside out. They change the story first, before the first workout, before the first page, before the first meal. They make a decision about who they are, and then every action becomes a vote for that identity. A single workout doesn't make you an athlete, but it is one vote for being an athlete. A single page doesn't make you a writer, but it is one vote for being a writer. And votes compound. 20 votes, 50 votes, 100 votes. Somewhere around the 100th vote, the story flips. You stop being someone who is trying to work out and become someone who works out. The question, should I go to the gym today, stops being a question. Athletes go to the gym, you're an athlete, there's nothing to decide. The behavior becomes gravity. You're just falling in the direction you already face. Let me show you how powerful this identity shift really is. Because most people hear this and think it sounds like affirmation nonsense. Stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself you're a champion. This is the opposite of that. Researcher Daphna Oyserman at the University of Southern California conducted a series of studies on what she calls identity-based motivation. She found that when a behavior is linked to a person's sense of who they are, the difficulty of the behavior becomes irrelevant to their persistence. Athletes don't quit workouts because workouts are hard. Hardness is expected. It's part of the identity. Writers don't quit writing because writing is painful. Pain is part of the craft. When the behavior is anchored to identity, obstacles are interpreted as part of the process, rather than signals to stop. When the behavior is anchored to an outcome, lose 20 pounds, obstacles are interpreted as evidence that the goal might not be achievable. Same obstacle, completely different psychological response. One leads to persistence, the other leads to abandonment. And the variable that determines which response fires is whether the person identifies as someone who does this or someone who wants this. Someone who does this hits the obstacle and keeps going because the obstacle is part of doing this. Someone who wants this hits the obstacle and reconsiders because the obstacle threatens the want. But there's a hidden trap inside the identity conversation that almost nobody addresses. And if you miss this, everything I just said will backfire on you. Most people carry a model of discipline that sounds like, this discipline means suffering. It means doing the hard thing when you don't feel like it, grinding, enduring, choosing pain over comfort every single day until you die. And if that's your definition, you've built a time bomb into your identity. Because if discipline equals suffering, then every moment you're comfortable, you feel undisciplined. And every moment you're suffering, you feel virtuous regardless of whether the suffering produces anything. This is how people end up waking at 4 in the morning for no functional reason. Their job starts at 9. There's nothing productive happening between 4 and 7, but the alarm at 4 feels disciplined because it hurts. This is how people follow meal plans that make them miserable even though a nutritionist would tell them they could eat in a way that's both healthy and enjoyable. The misery is the point. The suffering is the signal. This is how people perform elaborate productivity rituals, the color-coded calendar, the 18-step morning routine, the journaling and meditating and cold plunging and gratitude listing that consume 2 hours and produce zero meaningful output. They are performing discipline. They are cosplaying as disciplined people. And the performance burns out at exactly the same rate motivation does, because it runs on the same dopamine loop, the temporary satisfaction of feeling like a hard person doing hard things. The people who sustain discipline for decades describe their behavior one way: normal. They describe it as just what they do. Tuesday, gym, write, eat, sleep. The action doesn't feel heroic because it's been moved from Daniel Kahneman's System 2, the slow, effortful, conscious decision-making system, into System 1, the fast, automatic, habitual system. Once a behavior lives in System 1, it requires the same psychological effort as brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth. You don't need a speech. You don't need a why. You just do it because doing it is who you are, and skipping it would feel wrong. That is what real discipline feels like from the inside. It feels like nothing, absolutely nothing. And that nothingness is the goal. This brings us to the mechanism that actually moves behaviors from System 2 to System 1, the bridge between effortful and automatic. And it is the single most important concept in the entire science of behavior change: implementation intentions. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer developed this in 1999, and it has been replicated so many times that it stands as one of the most bulletproof findings in applied psychology. An implementation intention is a pre-made decision that specifies when, where, and how a behavior will be performed. Instead of, I'm going to exercise more, I will put on my running shoes at 6:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and run the 2-mile loop near my apartment. Instead of, I'll eat healthier, when I sit down for lunch at work, I will eat the meal I prepared last night before I consider anything else. When X happens, I will do Y. Sounds almost insultingly simple. The results are anything but. A meta-analysis by Gollwitzer and Sheeran in 2006 reviewed 94 studies and found implementation intentions had a medium to large effect on goal attainment beyond simple goal setting, even when both groups reported identical levels of motivation. Same desire, same fire, same commitment, different outcomes. Because implementation intentions remove the decision from the moment of action, you decided 2 weeks ago. The decision is finished. The alarm goes off, the shoes are by the door, the route is set, and the only thing left is the physical motion of starting, which, when there is no open decision to process, encounters almost zero resistance. Let me break down why this works at a cognitive level, because understanding the mechanism makes it permanent. Every moment of hesitation you've ever felt before doing something you know you should do, that hesitation is your brain processing an unmade decision. Should I do this now or later? This version or that version? Am I ready? Do I feel like it? Is today the right day? Should I do the full workout or just a quick one? Each of these micro questions activates system 2, the slow, effortful, energy expensive part of your brain. And system 2 has a budget. Roy Baumeister's research on decision fatigue showed that the quality of human decisions degrades measurably over the course of a day as the cognitive budget depletes. Judges in Israeli courts granted parole at a rate of 65% after meals and nearly 0% before meals. Same cases, same judges, different cognitive resources available. Your willpower is literally a bank account that gets drained with every decision you make. Every micro question you process before a behavior burns a withdrawal from that account. And when the account is empty, which it is by 6 p.m. for most people, the brain defaults to whatever requires the least effort. Implementation intentions eliminate the micro questions. There is no should I because the decision was made on Sunday. There is no which version because the specifics were predetermined. There is no do I feel like it because feelings were removed from the equation when the implementation intention was set. The pre-made decision routes the behavior around system 2 entirely and hands it directly to system 1, the automatic system which executes without deliberation, without depletion, and without the opportunity for your brain to talk you out of it. There's a compounding effect here that turns implementation intentions from a productivity hack into a complete identity overhaul. Each time you execute a pre-made decision, you are casting a vote for the identity that made it. Clear uses this language deliberately. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And votes compound. One workout is one vote. 30 workouts in 60 days starts rewriting the story your brain tells about who you are. And somewhere around the 100th vote, something shifts beneath the surface. You stop consulting the implementation intention because you no longer need it. The behavior has been repeated enough times in response to the same cue that it has migrated from system 2 to system 1. It is now automatic. It is now identity. And identity level behaviors are almost impossible to dislodge. Think about how hard it would be to stop brushing your teeth, to just decide one day that you're done with dental hygiene. Your entire psychological system would resist that decision because it violates who you are. That is the level of entrenchment you are building toward with every vote you cast. And the implementation intention is the mechanism that generates votes fast enough for the compounding to take hold before the motivation wears off. Philippa Lally's 2009 study at University College London provides the timeline. She tracked 96 participants attempting to build new habits over 12 weeks. She found that the average time to reach automaticity, the point where the behavior requires no conscious effort, was 66 days. Some behaviors took as few as 18 days. Some took as long as 254. The critical finding was this: missing a single day did not measurably affect the long-term habit formation process. The chain doesn't shatter because you drop one link, but quitting does. The difference between missing a day and quitting is the difference between a pause and an identity collapse. Missing a day while holding the identity of someone who does this generates a corrective impulse. You feel wrong, you go back, you add the link tomorrow. Quitting while holding the identity of someone who is trying to do this generates a confirmation. See, I knew I couldn't stick with it. Same missed day, different identity, different outcome, different life. Now, here's the part that makes everything I've said actually stick, because knowing all of this means nothing if your brain goes right back to the old loop tomorrow morning. And it will try. Your brain is addicted to the dopamine cycle of motivational content. It will pull you back. It will tell you to watch one more video, research one more system, buy one more planner. And every time you obey that pull, you feed the loop that keeps you stuck. So here is the protocol, 5 steps. written for someone who is done performing discipline and ready to build it. Step 1. Audit your environment tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. Walk through every space where your daily behaviors happen. Kitchen, bedroom, desk, car. For each behavior you want to change, ask one question. Have I made the desired action the easiest possible option in this space? The book goes on the pillow. The fruit goes on the counter. The junk goes in the trash. The gym bag goes by the door. The phone goes in a drawer in a different room. Every behavior you perform is the product of friction. You will reliably do whatever has the least friction in any given moment. Redesign the friction tonight. Step 2. Write 3 implementation intentions. When and where and how. Absurdly specific. Write them on a piece of paper and tape it to the wall next to your bed. When my alarm goes off at 6:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will put on the shoes that are next to my bed and walk out the front door. When I sit at my desk at 9 a.m., I will open the document I'm working on before I open anything else. When I finish dinner, I will read for 20 minutes in the chair next to the lamp before I turn on any screen. These sound trivial. They will outperform every motivational speech you've ever heard. Step 3. Decide who you are. One sentence. Write it down. I am a person who moves their body every day. I am a writer who writes. I am someone who keeps their word to themselves. This sentence becomes the executive authority over every daily decision. When the alarm goes off and you don't feel like it, you consult the sentence. Does a person who moves their body every day skip this morning? No. So you get up? The decision was made before the moment of weakness arrived. The moment of weakness is irrelevant. It has no authority. The identity does. Step 4, expect nothing to feel good for 66 days minimum. You will feel like you're going through the motions. You will feel like it isn't working. You will look at people posting transformation stories online and wonder why your experience feels so flat and empty compared to theirs. The flatness is the signal. The emptiness is the evidence. The concrete is setting. It doesn't look like anything while it dries, but once it hardens, it will hold weight you cannot imagine right now. The presence of feeling fire, excitement, motivation was always the signal that you were consuming something temporary. The absence of feeling is the signal that you're building something permanent. Step 5, delete the motivation. This is the hardest step because your brain will fight it the hardest. Unsubscribe from the podcasts that make you feel fired up. Stop watching the speeches. Stop reading the threads about morning routines and productivity systems and the habits of billionaires. Every piece of motivational content you consume is a dopamine loan against a future that never arrives. The interest rate is your consistency. You are paying with the very thing you're trying to build. The content that makes you feel like you're changing is the content that ensures you never do. Delete it, all of it. Replace the consumption with execution. Replace the feeling with the doing. The doing will feel like nothing. And nothing is the only material that has ever built anything that lasts. There's a comedian who was asked once about his process for writing material. His answer has been repeated in productivity circles for years, but most people miss the point entirely. He didn't talk about inspiration. He didn't talk about passion or finding his why or embracing the grind. He said he puts a big wall calendar up. Every day he writes, he marks a red X. After a few days, a chain of red X's forms. His only job is to keep the chain going. A calendar and a pen. The act of writing reduced to its absolute minimum cognitive cost. Did I do it today? Yes or no? Mark the X or don't. And he became one of the most successful comedians in the history of television. Because he understood what nobody in the motivation industry will ever tell you. The days you don't feel like it are the only days that matter. Anyone can show up when it feels good. The chain is built on the days it feels like nothing. The days the alarm goes off and your body says no, and your brain says what's the point, and the weather is wrong, and the coffee isn't ready, and the bed is warm, and every cell in your body is pulling you back to sleep. On those days, the ones that never make the motivational montage, you get up anyway. You mark the X, you cast the vote, you pour the concrete, and you feel nothing while you do it. And 6 months from now, you will wake up and realize the question of whether you'll do the thing today has stopped being a question. It's just a fact. You do this. This is who you are. And you'll look back at this moment, this exact moment, and realize the turning point was never a speech or a video or a feeling. The turning point was the first Tuesday you showed up and felt nothing and did it anyway. That was the day everything changed. And every day after that, you just kept the chain going. One more thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, so let it sit with you after you close this video. Right now, your brain is doing the exact thing I warned you about at the beginning. It is generating a dopamine spike from the content you just consumed. You feel something, maybe clarity, maybe readiness, maybe that familiar surge of someone who is about to change. That feeling is the trap. That feeling is the entire trap. The test of whether you actually heard what I said is not whether you feel motivated right now. The test is what you do in the next 24 hours. If you watch another video after this one, you failed. If you go research the perfect implementation intention framework, you failed. If you share this and feel good about sharing it and then do nothing, you failed. The only way to pass is to close this right now, walk to wherever you need to be, and do the boring, unsexy thing you already know you should be doing. The thing that won't feel like anything. The thing no video can do for you. Go do it right now. Don't think about it, don't plan it, don't feel anything about it, just go. The change starts today. And today is the only day that has ever existed.